Ready for me to.
Welcome, everyone, to a special gathering of the Auxiliary Markings Club's Zoom series. This is taking place on Saturday because our esteemed guest lives in the UK, and so we're glad you're all here. And whether you're watching it in person at the moment or later on, thank you for coming and spending time with us. Um, the Auxiliary Markings Club, if you don't know about it, we're a group of about 130 collectors who have an interest in all aspects of auxiliary markings and labels. As we like to say, if you're not a member of the Auxiliary Markings Club already, why not? It's the best deal in philately. And digital memberships are $15 if you join before the end of the year, and print is $22. And we have a wonderful newsletter and an excellent website with lots of information on it. We also have two social media outlets. All of our meetings are posted on our Auxiliary Markings Club YouTube channel. And then we have a Facebook account, which has a different auxiliary marking on it every day of the year, pretty much. So that's always fun to do, and we invite you to join those too. And if you're not aware of our first large-scale publication, which we undertook with the Philatelic Society of Canada, we published a 250-page collection of articles on auxiliary markings, and it's available on our website as a free download. We're very enthusiastic about shareable information, and so feel free to download a copy. We know it's been downloaded across the globe, and very excited about that. So please avail yourself to it if you didn't already know about it. So we're really honored to have Chris King with us today. Chris is one of the leading philatelists of his generation, and he's made a major contribution to just about every aspect of philately. He's been president of the Royal Philatelic Society of London. He's played a central role in every aspect of the recent project to move the society to new premises in the City of London. He also oversees the Society's collections, including the Museum of Philatelic History. He is a member of the Board of Election to the Roll of Distinguished Philatelists and has produced several large gold medal exhibits, as well as being an international juror. He's also received many awards, including the European Parliament Medal for Philately and the Lichtenstein Award. So, Chris, thank you for being here with us. I'm going to stop sharing and I will let you go ahead, and we're looking forward to it.
Let's ask how you feel about it after the event. So, share. There we go. Is everybody seeing what I hope you're seeing, which is the front cover, if you like, of my presentation?
Yes, that's great.
Good. Okay. So this is on auxiliary markings. It's a club or an organization that I never heard of before, which is bizarre since there are so many auxiliary markings in our world of postal history. So I'm very pleased to be asked. I'm very pleased to present this because I think Denmark must have more postal labels than any other country in the world. There is no catalogue, unfortunately. I've been foolish enough to start to think I might make one, but I don't think that's likely either. So here we go. Why is it? Yes, there we go. I thought I'd start by saying this is where Denmark is. It's the pointy bit, which points north out of northern Germany. So it's many islands, and today has a population of about 5.5 million. But 1850 to 1900, and I'll come back to this population point later on, it grew from 1.4 million to over 2.4 million. So that's where we're talking about Denmark. This is the head post office in Copenhagen. Unfortunately, it's a department store now. The PostNord sold this building, and now it's a department store. This is PostNord, who stops using postage stamps on the 31st of December this year. For the first time in 400 years, there won't be a national post office in Denmark. But here we have the main post office. And now we're going to come on to these instructional labels. So there are very many labels created to expedite the postal services in Denmark. Some we use to advise postal clerks and postal delivery staff on how to handle the mail. And we're all familiar with these express or registered or airmail or Sunday letters labels. But this presentation is concerned only with labels, not hand stamps. That's an entirely different story, and there are as many of those as there are labels, I think. It's concerned only with labels with instructions or advice aimed at post office users or the general public. So this is the post office communicating with its customers. And this is part of the problem. I mentioned earlier that the population of Denmark grew, but the population of Copenhagen grew enormously. So it's barely 100,000 in 1801. By 1860, it's 155,000. 1860 was the year they tore down the city gates, which had been closed every night for centuries before. And here you can see two letters from Great Britain to Copenhagen, and one from Holstebro to Copenhagen. And it simply says, well, the top left one says Anderson and Co. I can't actually read the first word, though it looks like Andrew. And then there's a piece of nonsense, which I think means nothing, and it simply says Copenhagen. And then there's another Anderson in the letter from Holstebro, simply says Copenhagen. And then we've got Fryer, I think, or Trier, simply saying Copenhagen from London. And the population grew by another 50,000 between 1860 and 1870, and more than 50,000 between 1870 and 1880. And the whole thing becomes quite impossible. I mean, this is Copenhagen in 1860. And from time immemorial, it had been bounded by the ramparts, which you can see in the upper part of the picture, holding the city in close to the sea. In 1860, as I've said, they knocked down the city gates. In 1852, they allowed property, housing, warehousing, all sorts of buildings to be built outside the ramparts. In fact, those ramparts today are the lakes, which if you've been to Copenhagen, they're the lakes. So the city started to grow rapidly outside its historic boundaries. The issue facing the postmaster was, how do you get the mail to the individual when you don't have a proper address? So they started by making postal districts and went on to establish a number of new post offices in Vesterbro, Nordbro, and Østerbro. These are parts of Copenhagen. And I'll show you a map of those in a moment. And then they made the railway post office became a district post office for Vesterbro and Frederiksberg. None of this will mean very much to you, but I'll show you on a map in a moment. And in December 1868, a Christianshavn post office was created simply to deal with the volume of mail that's coming in. And here we are. You can see the original city surrounded by its fortifications, to the sea on one side and to the land on the other. And you can see these new suburbs, Vesterbro in the southwest, Nørrebro in the centre, and Østerbro in the north, or the northeast. Bro means bridge. So East Bridge, North Bridge, and West Bridge. And then on the other side of the city, you've got Christianshavn. So they created these new postal districts. And the little red blobs are the post offices at various times. And then later came Frederiksberg, which is further west than Vesterbro. So you have these new suburbs, a rapidly growing city, huge new population, and you've got letters addressed to an individual in Copenhagen. It's an impossible task, and they had to do something about it. So here, this is really what got me started with this. This is a 1869 letter. It's paid at an inland rate from to Ringkøbing in Jutland, and it's got a label on it, which in translation reads, "I've been requested by the Postal Service for the sake of speedy dispatch to arrange that the place of address on letters to me be indicated as follows: Copenhagen, Christianshavn." It's quite interesting, the letters to me. I think that the customers must have picked these up at the post office and put them on the mail themselves. So these are created by the city post office, the city postal administration, distributed through these new post offices. There's another. So yes, as I say, probably it's issued by the head post office for the public. And here's another one. And this one is also, I think, from 1869. It's on the back of a cover from Nyborg, addressed to Copenhagen. And it concerns mail to Nørrebro. And it says, in translation, "In order to achieve the correct routing, the post office requests that you arrange for the address of letters to you to be indicated in this way: København, Nørrebro." Now, they're the only two I've found, the Nørrebro and the Christianshavn. There must be, I think, 3 others out there for different postal districts. So one day we might find them. I think this has been put on by the post office itself to advise recipients and correspondents on how to address the mail. Those are very rare. They're very difficult to find. And as I say, I figure there must be 3 others, one for each of the postal districts, but I've not seen them, and nobody else has seen them. Some of you will know I wrote a series of articles in the Danish Philatelic Press and in the Scandinavian, and the Collectors Club, the Scandinavia Collectors Club, asking for copies of mail with labels on, and I got very few responses. It might simply be that the subject is too dull for anybody to take any interest in. But okay, next came purple advisory labels. Adressaten kan ikke findes. Text in 5 lines, and here they go. So you can see an attractive little label. This one belonged to Kurt Hansen. I've actually found another one myself since. This is about 1874. And it says, "The sender cannot be found in Copenhagen without indication of residence or other closer designation." The letter post office. And in fact, this must have been put on the mail by the Copenhagen head post office, and addressing itself to correspondents on how to address the mail. And then we get another set of labels, text in 4 lines. This is 1878. So we're looking at this period between 1860 and 1880, I think, when it's getting difficult, and the post office is really trying very hard to get people to organize their addressing of their letters in a more effective way. And as you can say, this is Fruken Klein, I think, Copenhagen. And there's a label which says, "The sender cannot be found in Copenhagen without indication of residence or other closer designation, the letter post office." I think they must have got quite frustrated in dealing with these changes. That was also Kurt Hansen's. Right. What happened then in 1876? The Danish Postal Service produced officielle meddelelser, which are official notices. And the bound volumes of this are absolutely invaluable in trying to figure out what's going on with postal history in Denmark. And in February 1876, the official notices announced that with effect from the 1st of March, there were going to be postal districts designated in Copenhagen. K, V, N, O, and C. And these letters had to be included on the address side of a letter, in addition to a complete indication of residence. I'll come on to street names in a moment. Copenhagen in 1860 didn't even have street names for all the streets, and it didn't have consecutive numbering of the house numbers. But by now, it's 1876, mail has been being delivered 7 times a day. So they made these smaller districts, and they emptied the letter boxes more frequently, and they separated collection from delivery, because before the postal official was delivering and collecting mail. So there's a huge amount of change going on during the 1860s and 70s. So, as I say, it's aimed to improve mail routing efficiency. And here's these post offices in Vesterbro, Nørrebro, and Østerbro, V, N, and Ö. And then we have an extension of Vesterbro. And then we have, in 1868, the Christianshavn post office, and that's the letter C. And this is a splendid label. I think people had more time in the 19th century, and so you don't have to restrict your advice to 50 characters. You can really go on at length. And this is a very nice wrapper addressed to Leopold Hindenburg, a lawyer, member of Parliament. This one belongs to Lars Engelbrecht, and you can see that you've got almost 20 lines of text explaining what's going on here. Yeah. Here's, just as an aside, here's another one simply addressed to Christian Goertz, Copenhagen, readdressed to Nyborg. So the Nyborg post office had the same problem as the Copenhagen post office. I mentioned house and building numbers. Elias Krak, who lived from 1830 to 1908, was the head of Department of the Physical Planning for the city of Copenhagen for 40 years, 1858 to 1898, and he introduced consecutive street numbers in 1859. You can still buy today Krak's Guide to Copenhagen. This one is mine. This is on the back of the Christian Goertz letter, the advisory label. So there's at least 2 of these. I haven't seen another one. I think some of these labels are vanishingly scarce. And then we have, there we go. That's the whole thing. And because Danish is not a common language, that's what it actually says. So, according to the Ministry of the Interior's announcement of 21st February 1876, letter mail to Copenhagen should be prefaced on the address side with a clear and complete indication of residence, street, house number, etc. I think you can almost hear the frustration in the post office's language. And it said it had to include the distribution district, and you can see there Copenhagen K. That's the center of Copenhagen. Banegård, and that's Vesterbro, and Nørrebro post office, Østerbro, and Christianshavn. So if this designation or indication of residence is not found on letters, it cannot be expected to be delivered on the postman's first outward journey after the arrival of the mail in question. You can almost hear the pointing finger of frustration there. This is the longest advisory label I'm aware of. And then we get a new set of purple advisory labels. You can see the text here. Etc. And there's a little space for putting in the letter for the postal district. This letter would have been delivered earlier if it had an N under the place name in which postal district the addressee resides. And there's that label. And there's a British postcard being sent, and they've put somebody's put in there. It's going to Tordenskjoldsgade, Philatelic. And ST means, I have to ask Beata what it means, but it's the room or the offices within the building. And there we go. And these come in. These are the different types. The first one's quite easy to work out because you can see that the text is spread out differently. So med there at the top is followed by the word et, whereas in all the other labels, med finishes the end of the sentence, the end of the second line. So that's the first type with this et. It's rare. Lars Engelbrecht has two of them, and I have none. And these are the only two I'm aware of. So then we move on, and there are different settings of the letters, different settings of the type. So you can see here that the B on the left-hand second label is above the G, whereas on the other side you can see the B is above the I, and so on. So that's different types again. And the same sort of thing here. The K in Vilket is underneath the S, and it's in the other, it's closer to the N. And so you have 7 different settings, and you can get different letters put in. There's an N. This is an N in the second one on the left-hand side, an Ö, the third one on the left-hand side, another Ö on the bottom one on the left-hand side. And on the right, it's a V and an S. So there are many different types of these if you're into obsessive collecting, and you can find 7 different types, each with at least 4 different letters. It will make the most dull display ever, I imagine. Yep. So they seem to have been cut with scissors, sometimes guillotined. I found perforated ones. I imagine that might have been a private perforation, I don't know, or the post office itself perforating them. And I haven't bothered with the physical side of the labels, just simply the text blocks. So line length or spacing is used to differentiate them. And I'm not bothered with colors because these things fade over time. I'm not a passionate advocate of the study of shades because very, very often it's simply fading in light. So it's the texts for me which have determined which kind of label you have. So after the purple labels, we get green labels. So here's another kind. This is from Austria to Copenhagen, uprated piece of postal stationery. And it simply says, this letter would have been delivered to the addressee earlier had the place of residence been indicated. Because actually, if you look at it, it's to the editor of a typographical and lithographic organization of some kind, don't know, in Copenhagen, and the post office has put the actual street name and address on. And these come in different kinds as well. You can see that in the first type, April 1885, you've got an imperforate label with V is over the NA in Nor. And the second type, 1880 to 1894, the V is over the N in Nor. And the third type, the V is over the T inveterate. It's further to the left. And these come in a variety of colours, but I do think they started their lives greenish. Yeah. And then these larger purple labels come into play. This is from 1873. And what these are for, you can see it says it's from Copenhagen's letter post office for inquiry at the house of, for inquiry at. And so these were, the address was added, and the addressee was asked if the item of correspondence was intended for them. So they're inquiry labels. There's a whole raft of inquiry labels which come through. Here's a later one, 1904, and it's got a new text at the bottom which says, please don't open this letter if you don't have good reason to believe it was intended for you. And there's again, these go on for a very long time. Here's a later one, where you've got reference numbers. You can see in the top right-hand corner, it says OPM, that's Oer Postmeester, the senior postmaster, form number 18, 25,000 on the second line there, 14,920. So my guess is that means that 25,000 of them were produced on the 14th of September 1920. And the latest I have is from 1839, so they ran for nearly 70 years. And you can see it says at the bottom, don't open this unless you've got good grounds for believing it's intended for you. They were persistent, these early postmasters. And here is an inquiry label. And it's from Copenhagen N. And they've decided that this letter should be sent to every place where there is the street name. So it goes to Roskilde, Slagelse, Rudkøbing, etc., 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 even Åkirkeby, which is on Bornholm, and 4 other places, including Tønder and Haderslev, which are in the furthest south part of Denmark. So this unknown letter from Ribe post office went first to Copenhagen, and then it followed a route around looking for the addressee. So there were lots of those to collect. And then there were other labels. This is an American label from the Post Office Department, officially sealed, United States of America, 1877, Scott OX1. And the Danes utilized, you can see it's National Banknote Company of New York. You can see the Danes utilized this design, which I'll come back to in a moment. So from 1878 to 1964, the Danes had resealing labels for letters that were officially opened. The literature says, but I can't find a source for it, that these undelivered letters were only sent back where they were requested by the sender. And they are very rare, the early ones. There is an English language book on the subject, The Return Post of the Danish Postal Services, by Kurt Hansen and John Sabin. So here, this is the first, and you can see it's definitely belongs to the American design. So this is the Office for the Processing of Unclaimed Mail, 1878. Imperforate, with a green background and a brown front. If you get terribly excited about these sorts of things, there are variations in the post horns, and you can see this one here. There's almost in the left-hand one, there's no brown enhancement of the arc in the bottom right-hand corner. In the right-hand one, there is this brown enhancement. Yeah, there you go. About a quarter have the same floor. There's an entire letter with an official resealing label from 1883. And the letter has not made it. They've tried to send it to Kuya. It doesn't belong there, so it's been opened in order to return it. And there's the back of it, a pretty letter. And then we have it's this is opened by the widow, Mrs. County Veterinarian Hoyer, in the absence of her daughter-in-law, Mrs. Olga Hoyer. But these are irrelevant, whatever that means. I don't know. That's what it says. Post Office Courier Nielsen, the postmaster, I guess. So there's an official letter, an entire letter with an official receiving label. Yeah. So that's the only one. That's the only letter known with an official resealing label from that first issue. Used to belong to Kurt Hansen. He was a great collector of this stuff. Yeah. And you can collect these just like stamps. So there are color proofs. I've got a blue one. There is a red one. I don't have that. They come in little sheets. Here's a sheet of 8. And you can see, excitingly, if you're into that sort of thing, that they're imperf around the outer edges and perforated within the sheet. So there are 4 printings of this. There are sheets of 8 labels. There are vertical strips of 4. There are sheets of 4 labels and sheets of 8 labels again. And then here we've got the feather floor, which is in 2 of the 8 in this particular case, just a little mark in the printing. Yeah. And here's a used one. And this one, imperf on 2 sides, perforated on 2 sides. I expect you could probably plate them if you really wanted to. So this is sent to Carlsbad, sent back to Charlottenlund. And there's the back of it. Left on the 20th of May and returned to Charlottenlund on the 26th of June. Here's another resealing label. And this one also comes with a constant floor, which is there. You see the gap in the mesh. So if that's what turns you on, it's good to find. I was very pleased to find one. Yeah. That's the general area in which that floor is. You can see just to the south of the R is the gap. But then they come and come and come. There are lots of them. Those on the left-hand side are self-adhesive in strips of, in this particular case, 3, but I don't know how many they actually came in. But there are a lot of them to find, and finding them on cover is actually quite fun, because quite often these are found in dealer boxes. They're not expensive. It's just finding all the different ones that's the challenge. Okay, moving on from resealing labels, we're looking at a different kind of label. And Douglas Muir wrote a really interesting article entitled "Return to Sender: The Retour Etiquettes of Scandinavia." And if you're interested, it's in volume 128 of December 2019. And it's about small green labels, which were produced by the Post Office from 1887, explaining why mail couldn't be delivered. And these, I think, were agreed by the UPU. And as usual, Britain didn't do anything about that. And there are no British little green labels, but you can find them from many other countries. And they're usually not known, gone away, unclaimed, refused, deceased, forbidden, which came later, and left without forwarding address, which came later. Forbidden, there is reputed to be only one known on a cover, which I've never seen. So these are little green labels like that. That's a later one. And you can see that says J form, number 32. And you can see it's the 2nd of, whatever, the 2nd of June, 1922. Yeah. And here's one not claimed and returned. And this is great because it's got everything going for it. It really is the the collector who likes labels. It's got non-reclame, it's got a registration label, it's got a cash on delivery, or well, yes, cash on delivery label as well. And it was for quite a lot of money, 22 kroner and 50 euro. So what the story was, I really don't know. There, I mentioned the official notices. This actually appeared in the Book of Official Notices when they introduced these labels into Denmark. It's in shocking condition, but it's from the original postal notice sent to the postmasters. Yeah, so they come in different size sheets. And I don't know how many different size sheets there were. But here's a sheet with 5 different labels, the unknown, the gone away, and the not unclaimed, refused, and dead versions. And here's another one, slightly different configuration. And another one. And there, that one at the bottom, you see, has got the additional label forbidden. And then they come in sheets of all of the same label. And you can see this has got an A in the top left-hand corner. And this one's got a C in the top left-hand corner. And again, it's formula number 97B, 87. Is that 1887? And there's formula number 97B. So there's A and C. So presumably there's a B and a D and an E. But I don't have those either. So, and you can find single labels, as you saw earlier, with these form numbers below. And these are from 1922. But then at the end here, that's labeled J32. You can see they're all, so 32 is obviously gone away, fluted, because that's number 32. And that one is 2nd of June 22, which we've come across before, and that's September 1947. And there are, so again, I have no idea how many of these there are, how many forms there are, and how many dates there are. So yes, there's that's it's rather fun, that, isn't it? I just love it. They, as I said earlier, the postal service tried very hard to deliver the mail, and that went everywhere. And as you can see, there's a hand stamp, which I studiously ignore because there are just as many of these as there are of labels. And you can see here, unclaimed, and that's 1959. So there's 80, 90 years worth of these things to collect as well. And they have the same, and then retour, returned, and non-reclame, unclaimed, and then another label here to the return post office. So it's a nice little cover, but it's cheap. I figured that there must be a list available from the Copenhagen head post office or from the Directorate General for Post and Telegraphs, a catalogue of all of the labels that were available. And yes, there are. And I've now tracked down 13 of them between 1882 and 1983. I say I've tracked them down. I think I've got 2 of them in physical form. All the others I simply know exist. And I've been asking now for some years, any dealer, do you have one of these? And these are hen's teeth. These are really hard to find. But there are lists, and these lists are very helpful in trying to work out what there might be. So here's a page from the 1938 list. And if you look at the side there, well, the column, the first column is J, so these are J labels. And if you look at J32, that's the gone away label. And you see on the right-hand side in the third column, it tells you they come in rolls of 100 pieces, 100 items, as do all of those little green labels. I wonder if somewhere there's a roll of them. So, I mean, the rest of these catalogues of material available from the head office are quite extensive. And you can see this one is number 6 is an envelope for damaged damaged letters in 2 sizes, and they come in bundles of 100. And then you've got registered letter envelopes, which you can order, and they come in bundles of 25. I mean, in some cases, the bundles must have had labels around them. So you could drive yourself absolutely crackers trying to figure this out. So we look at Sunday letters now. Sunday letters started in 1929. And there were rules about what was a Sunday letter, where it could be delivered, and they were really not very far from the delivery office. And such letters were to be crossed on the front with diagonal lines and marked Sunday's way, and various clarifications followed. And here's one from 1931. It wasn't only just Sundays. It says at the top left-hand corner, it says Sunday's way, and it says Christi Himeli Farts Day, Ascension Day. So there were other days in the year when you could use this Sunday letter delivery. And you can see the red cross. Again, there were 10 rates for Sunday letters between 1929 and 1972. And Sunday letters could be letters inland, letters local, inland postcards, local postcards, and there was a Sunday supplement. And you can see the different supplements on the right-hand column, ranging from 10 euro in 1929 to 200, i.e. 2 kroner in 1967. And if you want to get into this one, and this is a super table produced by Jan Bendix in one of his excellent handbooks. Just trying to find an example of each of the rates would probably take a lifetime. But I'm interested in the labels, and here we have a label. This is the F7 label, and it says notice from the post office. And this item could not be delivered on Sunday because, and they've crossed everything out except for number 1, which is simply saying that it was sent too late. Oops, sorry, I don't even think I can go back. How can I go back? Yes, I can. Yes, you can see F7 257A8. So this is an F7 label from February 1957. And that is the list I've been able to put together with assistance from Jan Bendix. So Sunday labels 1 through 18, and their sizes and their dates. So F7, the top one, F7 631, is 84 by 131 millimeters, but most of the rest of them are about 50-ish by about 65-ish. And some of them have got 4 points to note, and some of them have got 3 points to note. And However, this is Jan's list, but I've seen all of them apart from three. I don't see why they don't exist, but I haven't seen them. And here's a nice collection of Sunday letters, and you can see the very large one in the top left-hand corner. Notice from Gilleleia Post Office, and again, this could not be delivered on a Sunday because it was sent too late, is the top left one. And so, yeah, you can make a collection of 18 of these if you've got the mind for it. And some of them come with additional. Top right, you see here, it says "Tog forsinkelse," and that's a railway accident. Is the reason why it wasn't delivered on time. Yeah, and there's quite a late one. There's 200 eur for the Sunday letter. Underneath is the standard postage, and it's quite a late example. It's one of the latest examples of Sunday letter labels. But there are many, 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 many more. And in fact, I had an email from a friend in Denmark pointing out one that I hadn't seen before, which is being sold in 2 days' time. We get red labels. Again, you can see OPM or Postmaster 146. That's the head post office head postmaster label 146. Comes in various sizes, always with the same message: delayed on the grounds that a full address is lacking. We're 1914 here, so nearly 60 years on, or 50 years on. Blue labels. It's recommended to put your own address on the back of the letters you send, so if they can't be delivered, you can have them returned quickly and unopened. And here's an example from 1915. This comes in various sizes. And yes, and on the reverse, it's been handwritten, moved, but where to is unknown. Yeah, more blue labels. The upper one with a very nice resealing label as well. It's recommended to put your own address on the back of the letters you send. And the 1939 example, the same thing. And yeah, the top left is from the office for handling, well, it means undeliverable, but it's not quite what it means there. Postal items. And there's another inquiry label, if you like. And the bottom one, their later version. White advisory labels. Message from the post office. Delivery is delayed because 1, you have specified the wrong postal district. 2, you have not specified a postal district. 3, whatever it is that's caused the thing to be delayed. Delete what is not required. And please notify the sender that a correct postal district designation is. And here we're in the 1940s. Cream advisory labels. Yeah, the contents indicate that the sender is, or rather, always indicate the sender on the outside of the consignment, is what it really says. 4 lines with a crown and a post horn. Yeah, and there's a letter card from 1958. And again, you can see the reference numbers. This is a P28 label, the top one 241, and the bottom one 252. Yeah, yellow and cream advisory labels with a crown and a post horn. Please ask the sender to use your correct and complete postal address, including street address, house number, place name, if applicable, postcode, and address post office. Yeah. And again, I thought these were the 3 that existed. I found a 4th only 2 weeks ago. I mean, what's fun about this is because there is no catalogue. You're genuinely you're genuinely not sure what you're pursuing until you find it. Yeah, we just did that one. Yeah, there's another one, 1944. This is quite nice. I think it's sent from Germany to Copenhagen, and it's the European Post and Telecommunications Union, which was if you like, it was the Third Reich's it was the Third Reich's postal European postal rate, which began in April 1943, where you had a standard rate of postage between all of the occupied territories under German control. So yeah, and there's another inquiry label from the return post office for inquiry at, and there is the address. And again, please don't open this letter unless you've got good grounds for believing it's intended for you. And then all hell breaks loose because the laser printer's been invented. And it's completely out of control because now the post offices start to well, the top one you can see is Form 55, and that's a typed label. So presumably some poor secretary has typed a sheet of these and they've been cyclostyled or roneoed or gestetnered or whatever. So and that's a Form 55. So that it's not quite out of control there. But then when you get these others, some of these have been sent to me. The one here, the bottom left, the stamp has fallen off during transit, really, and drawing while it's been in the hands of the post office. That one came from my mother-in-law some years ago. And then on the right-hand side, just above my first the typewriter, later the laser printer, where it says Retour PGA. That says returned on the grounds that there is no postal service to the country you're sending it to. And again, you've seen here on the top right, you get these lists of reasons why it's not being delivered. And that's a hand stamp, but it's a hand stamp on a label, so it's acceptable. And then, and on they go. They really do. I mean, there's a whole series of these buff labels from the post office, from the return post office, please return to sender. And again, that's the P4007 label, and there are lots of those. There are many return post office labels in pinks and sort of darker shades of rose and red and white ones, and a whole series of. There's another inquiry label from 1998 on the bottom right, a pale lilac. So it is. I'm not saying it's completely unresearched, but it's an area where there are many holes, and it gives us an opportunity to dig around in dealer boxes and see what we can find. It started life being my entertaining cheap option, but the trouble is that nothing ever comes cheap when there's only one of it and the dealer knows. So I've paid a bit more for a few of them. So there we are. That's my favorite label, which is my last one, which says, do I have a translation? Yes, we can't deliver your letter because you have no letterbox. De mangle et breve incast, a brave castle. Now, I don't know how they delivered this if there was no letterbox. So on that, I'll leave you with the reason you find them from Holstebro is Beata, my wife, was born in Holstebro, so Holstebro things get collected. But this I just love. We can't deliver your letter because you have no letterbox. So that's me finished. Thanks very much. There we go.
Thank you, Chris. That was a very entertaining tour through that. And One of the things that I noticed, which is because I collect, I'm a Belgian collector, and I collect all of the UPU labels. I mean, I collect them from all over. But some of the labels, it seems that the UPU, of course, wanted people to understand why their mail was coming back. And it's interesting to me that some of these are only in Danish. Um,
Yes.
and I'm sure that one, the one that went to San Francisco, appeared to be to a Dane, but if it was to somebody else, I'm quite sure they would have been, you know,
Yeah.
out to left field on what it meant.
They were all supposed to be in the home language and French,
Right.
you know. But there are lots of them. They come from all over the place, but not from Great Britain.
Yeah. They're actually, we had a presentation about 4 months ago by Ken Snelson, who has actually found, and Douglas Muir has also found, an early Great Britain postal UPU postal return label.
Oh wow.
He
Okay.
has, and Ken has one of them, and I think Doug Muir has the other one.
Okay.
And it seems, I mean, the assumption is that, like the French, they figured out very quickly that cutting a label out and affixing it took about 7 times the amount of time as punching a hand stamp on, and so they just abandoned them. But there are, those are the only two or three that are known.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll ask Douglas
Yeah,
next time I see him.
sure. Doug.
A different Douglas. Uh, that was a wonderful talk, and it's amazing the number of things you've turned up. Regarding that very last one you had, it struck me that the Danish obviously are not worried about being verbose because I published a paper in one of the first issues of our auxiliary markings newsletter 20 years ago, in which I had several dozen markings, and they were all no male receptacle,
Yeah.
which is the shorter version of that marking.
Yeah.
And
Sorry. Go on.
at first it seemed puzzling, but then again, when we get a blizzard here and the snowplow knocks our mailbox off the post, then there is no mail receptacle, and that's exactly what they do. Um,
This is that doesn't happen in Holstebro. It's on the west coast. They're more likely to get rain than they are anything else. So no, I can't figure it out at all. Um, yeah, it's
I think it can be vandalism. It can be, an accident like that.
yeah. No,
Um,
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that actually makes good sense. I mean, I have one letter. It's not a label, unfortunately. It simply says damaged by fire on New Year's Eve. And that's a firework being put into the mailbox, basically.
right,
You know.
right.
And
That's great stuff.
there is a legendary British label which says damaged by snails.
Wow.
Amazing. Does
There's
anybody else have any questions or any comments you'd like to make?
I-
All right. Well, I'll just conclude by saying thank you again for taking the time to come and share that with us, Chris. That was fascinating, and I know what I'll be doing tonight while I'm laying in bed on Del Camp. So I'll be having a look for some of
I think
these.
Tradera is quite good.
Yeah.
Tradera is a Scandinavian only one.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I'll have a look there as well. Let me just let you know about our next presentation. We're back to Tuesday nights, always the second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Blair Ashford has made a philatelic career out of studying the markings and postage due markings of Newfoundland, and he's a very engaging speaker, and I know that you will enjoy it. So that's December 9th, postage paid markings of Newfoundland. In the meantime, thank you for joining us, and we thank you for taking the time out of your Saturday. And if you're not a member, we encourage you to give it some thought, and we'll look forward to seeing you again down the road. So thank you very much, and enjoy your rest of your Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.